Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello. Before we get into today's interview, I wanted to give you a heads up that you're going to hear about the supplement creatine. And if you've dabbled in fitness, you've probably heard creatine is good for men trying to bulk, but this creates this assumption that it's quote unquote bad for women. But we know increasing your muscle mass is good for both men and women. You'll learn more about this in today's episode. So whether you're trying to bulk up or not, if you engage in any sort of resistance training or not, or whether you identify as a man or a woman or not, more and more research is actually showing creatine has more benefits than just supporting your muscle mass. There's actually research coming to fruition about the benefits for brain health, conditions such as Alzheimer's, depression, aging. It really is something that it's very easy to incorporate in your day-to-day, and there's no harm, no foul. It's the most studied supplement, I think, in like the nutrition and fitness profession. Okay. So I have a discount code for you. If you go to the link in my show notes, you can try creatine from Thorne. It is a company that I trust. Those supplements have been tried, tested, true. What they say is on the label is there. A really big believer in the Thorne brand and the creatine in particular. I am a huge fan of, and I'm glad that Jessica in this interview, which you'll hear is a sports dietitian, really backs that up. So everyone is different, but generally we tend to recommend a dosage of 5 grams a day, which is optimal to take around time of exercise. There's no flavor to it. It's plain. You can literally add it to your coffee. You can add it to your water. You can add it to any other beverage that you're consuming. And it's really an easy add-in. So one thing that I think people are hesitant to incorporate it is because what the creatine does is it basically helps to maintain hydration within your cells. And so therefore you're staying more hydrated, and you might get on the scale and the scale looks quote unquote up, or that you gained weight, but it's just water weight. So don't freak out. So I feel like I always have to put that as a disclaimer because you never know who's trying this and what they're thinking, how it's affecting their body. But I promise it is one of those things that when you incorporate on a regular basis, whether you see the benefits in the moment or far down the line, it is probably something that you want to consider taking. So go to the link in the show notes to use that specific discount code link so you can save 10% on your first order. It's a really great add-in and easy to implement. Now, onto the interview. Hello, and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I am so excited for our very next guest. I feel like we have a celebrity with us. Her name is Jessica Isaac. She is not only a registered dietitian, but a sports dietitian for the LA Clippers. And she's also the master coach for bodybuilding.com. So if you're looking for a reliable resource about like pre and post-workout nutrition, proper hydration, fueling, recovery. I mean, like she's literally the person. So I'm super excited. If you're not following her on Instagram, you definitely you need to. Her content is informative, educating, but more importantly, like fun, and you like want to watch it. So it's really, I'm just really excited because I know this episode is going to be amazing. Without further ado, Jessica, welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast.
Thanks so much, Tony. Awesome to be here.
You're so welcome. So first question, I always ask all of my guests, it's a 3-part question. I would love for you to introduce yourself by sharing who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why you do what you do.
Cool. Yeah. So starting off, Jessica, you did an awesome intro for me. So my full-time gig is as a lead sports dietitian for the LA Clippers. I got into sports nutrition. I set my sights on becoming a sports dietitian like 10 years ago. And I'll get into like kind of what that journey looked like and how I got to that point. But out of school, started at Mamba Sports Academy, which was Kobe Bryant's training facility, worked with all sorts of athletes there. Incredible experience. And then COVID hits, situation changes. I'm online. And so I started doing a lot of content creation and doing some of the things that I'm doing now, private practice stuff as well, working with different athletes, but creating a lot of fun videos and trying to, I guess, trying to survive, first of all, in a COVID world and find business, but also trying to kind of correct a lot of the narratives that I was seeing within the industry, especially diet culture as it relates specifically to athletes, but also the normal human as well. And then I got a job at UCLA working with men's and women's basketball there, and then have been now with the Clippers since November of last year, 2021. So it's been kind of a crazy journey. I'm doing my dream job right now, and it's wild, and getting to do all kinds of other fun stuff. So I kind of feel like the last 2 years have been just like this really surreal experience, but I really feel like I'm getting to do the things that I wanted to do coming from the place where I came. I grew up in a very like military structured household, very image obsessed. And I quickly started having like body image issues, bad food relationship issues. And I struggle with that. I mean, from about probably 12 years old, I had started my first like eating disorder and then just went through all these different phases of that. I joined the military at 18 and got married young, had a kid. And then it wasn't until she was about 5 years old where she started making comments about her own body as like a 5-year-old with just like a stick. And it was it made me so aware that whatever I was doing is no longer this like secret terrible thing that I was doing to myself, but really that I was passing it on to my daughter. And coming from, a place where my family, I felt like put a lot of that onto me. It was like, I wanted to break the cycle. And so I started getting healthy for me, but also for her, more so for her. But I didn't I did a DIY recovery process, which wasn't great. And we talked off air before this about bodybuilding.com. And kind of I went through this whole exercise obsession phase and just doing everything the wrong way, but I thought it was the right way because of all the misinformation that is on the internet. I really thought this diet was the thing I needed to do. No, it was that one. And so I had such this messy experience with it that by the time I discovered you know what, I want to get my nutrition figured out and I want to help people with it. It became my mission to not only work with athletes, because that was what I was passionate about, but also just correcting a lot of this diet culture and misinformation that I was seeing because I had struggled with it for 2 decades of my life. And so the last thing I wanted to do was to continue to pass that on to other people. So that's kind of how I got to here. Yeah.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. I actually didn't know you served in the military. So thank you so much. Everything else you just shared, I was like, Yep. I resonate. Before we started recording, I was sharing that when I had first become a dietitian, I somehow felt now I need to prove myself in all of the ways and get into the quote unquote best shape of my life. And bodybuilding.com was where I went for my information. And I joked, but it's not funny. That's probably how I developed a disordered relationship with food and body dysmorphia. So I'm very glad that you are now the one that is providing their content. I had noticed more recently, and not even past few years, I have actually noticed their content has been, I think they are taking more registered dietitians on to help them create the content. And it's definitely been better. But I mean, we're talking 10, I'm going to be a dietitian 9 years in October, maybe 10. I can't tell because of the pandemic. I have no idea. My poor boyfriend, he's I think we've been together 4 or 5 years. I'm I think 3 or 4, actually.
What is time?
I'm but I don't know. You could be right. But anyways, that was super helpful and kudos to you for kind of figuring out that you need to do this, not just for you, but for your daughter. And then more importantly, and also for the world. And I think a lot of people, start to realize when they have a child, holy crap, it's not what you don't tell them anything and they change. It's monkey see, monkey do. Yeah. They are literally watching, absorbing, and you can say all you want to say, but if you're not demonstrating, balanced eating habits or a healthy relationship with food, well, they're less likely to be able to develop that too. So.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Right.
Okay. So, oh God, we can talk about so many things. So also I realized maybe not everybody knows who the LA Clippers are. It's a basketball team. It's a professional basketball team. But did you play basketball?
No, I played rugby.
That's so funny. Yeah. So would you consider yourself an athlete growing up?
No, actually.
That's so interesting. So why sports dietitian? What made you, I feel most people go into that they themselves have been like, they've played sports most of their life?
I always wanted to be an athlete, and I have it within me to be an athlete, but I was a latchkey kid. My parents were military. They split when I was young. Like they didn't have, I'm one of 10 kids. Like,
no.
Yes. And so like, there's an earlier set and like a younger set of us, but like the earlier set, we just kind of like were on our own. And so I did a little bit of track in high school, but that was the only thing I could ever make it to. And even then, like I had to drop out because I couldn't consistently make it. And so it wasn't until like I got into fitness and really was like, finally, now I can really prove what I know that I have in me, because I know I'm competitive. I know like I'm physically able. I just never had the guidance or opportunity, I felt like. And so I got into like, I was doing running and that sort of thing, but then lifting, I started feeling so powerful. And then I just kind of fell into rugby at this point where I was transitioning out of bodybuilding, realizing that was just like another eating disorder, truthfully, for me. Like it was just another form of control. And even though I had like, chiseled abs and looked like the poster child for fitness and success, I was like my most unhealthiest of my life. And you would never know it. But anyways, I got into rugby, and rugby was like the best thing that I could have ever done. It like healed my body dysmorphia completely, because you have women and men, but in my sport, women of all ages and all sizes and all abilities. And they all have a place and a role on the team. And they all like the people that, would have been, I don't know, like I was the smallest person, and I was the one with the most hangups of my body, and everybody else was like stripping their shirts off, like body appreciation and love. And I thought, gosh, if they can do that, like what is my problem? Right. And so that was just a great transition for me to then fix my relationship. But yeah, as far as getting into like, I think I just always thought athletes were incredible. I always just wish I could have been one, and felt like I just like missed my opportunity. So, what is it like if you can't teach or whatever?
Yeah.
You can't play coach. I don't know, something like that. Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That's so great. That's so interesting. That's really interesting. I guess where people might be listening and it's like, okay, well, how is what you're about to share with us going to be applicable for their lifestyle when they're not professional athletes, right? Because today's topic is really more so about kind of fueling pre and post workout, all that stuff. I think one of the more common questions, I get two really common questions in regards to like fitness and just like healthier living and exercise. It's like, what should I eat before I work out? And should I have a protein shake? So we'll definitely talk about that today. But like before we even like get into that, like what would you say would classify someone to like really listen in, like this is important information for them? Like how much exercise does someone now really need to really focus on maybe some meal timing or certain nutrients? Like when would you say is like the amount of exercise that equates to this is important information for you?
I would say it's a spectrum, and it's like some things are so individual, but I think you can like reframe it as like, it's not just like you're an athlete, a competitive athlete, but you're the everyday athlete. Or sometimes I talk about high performers. And so I'm not just talking about the traditional competitive athlete, but I'm also talking about the business person that's, putting in 4 or 5 days in the gym and also, traveling a lot. Like there's a lot of different things that aren't just athlete specific that we can do to take care of our bodies better. But if you're moving your body and you're exercising at a moderate to high intensity level for 30 minutes or more, then you need a pre-workout snack, If you're trying to build muscle, or you want to take care of the muscle you have, or you want to recover and be able to perform your best the next day, then you need to recover appropriately with a protein shake, but also carbohydrates. And there's goals too. Like it depends on if you're trying to build muscle or lose weight, if you're trying to just like work on, stamina and endurance and just being able to like move your body, and mobility for, longevity in life, or just take care of yourself for the long run. I would say it all depends. But yeah, if you're exercising on a regular basis, again, at a moderate to hard intensity level, so more than just like a walk, then you probably should be fueling around that as though you're fuel. I mean, it's not just an athlete, it's just fueling before exercise, right?
Yeah.
And even if you're going on a walk, I would even argue, depending on how long that walk is, then there's some things that we should do as well. So any kind of movement requires fuel. Any kind of recovery requires fuel.
Yeah, I love that. So what are some signs or symptoms that maybe someone isn't fueling enough, or maybe not fueling appropriately per se? Like maybe not getting the right sort of nutrients?
Well, it depends on where you are at baseline. If you're just starting off and it's like you're struggling, then it just might be like just working on getting in shape and building up that endurance for it. But if you're noticing that, I used to be able, or maybe even just like a session that I did last week, I felt a lot stronger than this week, then maybe that's telling me I either didn't recover enough from that last session to have enough gas for this one. I'm not eating enough overall in the day to provide me that energy. And that's why it feels like I'm working harder. So my level of perceived fatigue feels like it's increasing, even though I'm doing the same work, right? Or you're just not feeling at the right times. So that might be one thing, is that just like that fatigue, or it feels like you're working harder. Any kind of like cramping issues, there's a lot of different reasons why I might be cramping. But if you're having some muscle cramps, that might be a sign of some kind of food or fluid or hydration kind of issue. If you're feeling sore, now again, if you're hitting a really hard workout and it's been 2 years since you lifted weights and you just did a full body session and squatted 145 pounds, like you're going to be sore for a few days at least, probably, like that's normal. But if you're like continually sore every time, you might be missing something. If you're getting sick, or you're getting injured, and that might just be like some just aches and pains that just don't seem to go away. That tennis elbow, I know I used to get a lot when I wasn't feeling well. I felt like, it was just a struggle around my elbow region. All those could be signs that we're just simply not getting in enough for what our body needs at baseline, plus the activity we're trying to throw on top of it.
Yeah. Wow. That's really helpful. You mentioned actually soreness. I want to talk about that. Are there any things people can do it in particular, maybe things they can eat or just things that they can do to maybe help minimize some of that soreness? Like we know that it's probably normal, especially if you're first starting out or if you're working a new muscle group. Yeah. But are there things that are steps people can take to kind of, I guess, is that possible to like make you less sore faster? There's
certain things. Yeah. So there's so soreness is inflammation, right? Some inflammation's okay. And some inflammation's protective of the body, but we don't want it to go uncontrolled. Plus it's annoying if we have these legs that feel like they're heavy as heck for like multiple days. So there's some like level of soreness that people just are going to experience relative to whatever they're doing. If you're pounding a really hard, if you're having a really hard leg day, like you're probably gonna be sore, right? But there are certain things that you can do. One is eating enough. Two is eating enough protein. And what that usually looks like, I try to tell people like at least a hand-sized serving of a protein or palm-sized serving of protein at all of your meals, 3 meals ideally at least. If it's a plant-based protein, we need to do a little bit more. So that might be a full hand-sized serving. And this changes depending on your body size, your goals, all this. It's never a black and white answer, right? Unfortunately, which is what people always want. But there's anti-inflammatory foods. So berries, especially darker berries, dark leafy greens, those sorts of things are going to be helpful for inflammation, healthy fats. Avocados, nut seeds. Tart cherry juice, though, is one of my favorites. So tart cherry juice, most of the research shows it as twice a day. But at least like after like a hard session, if you have that like for recovery alongside of like a recovery meal or snack or drink, this would be like a separate thing. You could combo them, I guess, but it's like a separate function of it. But tart cherries, specifically the tart cherries, have what's called anthocyanins. And those just help to like reduce inflammation and muscle soreness. They also help like promote better quality sleep. So if you're someone who's a crappy sleeper too, which I can probably guess at least 75% of your audience is, then tart cherry juice at night also can be helpful for improving quality of sleep. And also getting enough sleep. A lot of repair happens overnight. So if we're not getting enough sleep, if we're not allowing our body to recover, then we're probably going to be sore too.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad you brought up tart cherry juice, and you reminded me, because it's not part of my like regular routine, and I definitely want to start incorporating it for like the health benefits. And fortunately, I don't have any sleeping issues. I mean, I guess occasionally, but like I really feel for the people who do on a regular basis, because that's I can't. I wouldn't be able to function. I don't know how people do it. I just do. Yeah. Actually, bringing up sleep though. Yeah. Let's talk about like caffeine and like in performance. And because I know also like I think more than just the NBA, I think it's a lot of professional athletes, like their organization. I don't even know what you call it. There's like a lot of bans on wasn't there just such a ban on Celsius or something? I feel like I just heard about that.
So you're thinking more like the NCAA, like WADA level. There's so their caffeine source is guarana. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And anybody from Brazil is going to be mad at me for saying that incorrectly. But it's essentially, from what I've researched about it, there's nothing like crazy about it, except that it's just high levels of caffeine. And so there are restrictions for WADA, which is just like a federation that controls like, certain rules and regulations within sports. And then the NCAA, so like college athletes, that sort of thing, they have restrictions around how much caffeine. But caffeine's like a super well-researched performance enhancer. There's just some things to like keep in mind. Like not everybody responds well to caffeine. Some people are actually caffeine non-responders where like it doesn't have an effect. And other people like caffeine and too much caffeine or caffeine at the wrong times. It can cause anxiety. It can interfere with your sleep. It can have like, the opposite effect of what you really want it to have. So first you need to understand if caffeine's even like effective for you or not. But if we're trying to use it strategically, like there's certain sports where it's helpful. Caffeine though, like is a stimulant, right? So it just blocks a receptor that tells us we're tired. It doesn't actually give us real energy. So if we're looking for real energy, that always comes from food, from calories, from carbohydrates. But if you want that actual like extra stimulation for like a cognitive benefit or a focus benefit or something like that, which caffeine can do, then it can certainly be helpful to add in. But I see people like slamming pre-workout and like energy drinks like crazy, thinking they're going to have like this killer workout. But you're just like, again, blocking a receptor. You're not giving your body true energy. So if you're neglecting the carbohydrates in place of the caffeine, instead of seeing those as like things that can work together, then you're not really setting yourself up for success. The other thing I would say is just like watch the amount. Like for adults, 400 milligrams is supposed to be the limit. But I know like military people, night shift people, like people that work in healthcare will think I'm a crazy person if I tell them 400 milligrams because they're
if you like go to Starbucks and you get more than the tall.
Yeah.
Right? Like most of their drinks are about that much.
Yeah. But I do see especially a lot of young people that are just doing a lot of those energy drinks plus other stuff that has caffeine in it. There's a lot of heart issues that I'm seeing for otherwise healthy young 20-year-olds like heart issues and needing to wear needing to go to the hospital like bad.
Yeah.
So caffeine, it can be helpful, but with anything within moderation.
Right. It's always like the saying, I think the saying is like the damage is in the dose, right? So it's fine. And it's actually really, there's a lot of studies, like you said, that's very beneficial to caffeine and even coffee and the bean itself. Like there's antioxidants, like there's so many benefits to it. But with anything, it's like, if you have too much of something, it's usually gonna, kind of counterbalance other things. So let's get into the way I feel like my brain works, and maybe I think people probably will relate to this in regards to like what to eat before a workout. Like I try to explain to people, it like depends when you're working out, right? So let's say maybe your workout's in, I don't know, like 2 or 3 hours from now. Okay. Like what should somebody eat to prepare? Like, I guess like, let's do a timeline, like 2 to 3 hours, maybe like an hour out, like they're about to work out in a half hour. Like, should they be eating every hour? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it, I guess like, I know it's so hard to answer because it's so independent on like the type of workout and everything like that. But yeah, like if someone's going to be working out and like, it's like they're having lunch, it's like 1 o'clock and their workout's at like 3:30.
Yeah. So if they're having at lunch at 1 o'clock, workouts at 3, then I would probably just be mindful of things that are too high in fiber, or not, I don't want to say too high, but anything within like a 4-hour span or 3 to 4 hours. So like I say, if you're having a meal, ideally that's 3 to 4 hours out if it's going to be a mixed nutrient meal. And what I mean by that is it's got carbs, it's got protein, but it also has fiber and some fats in it. Fats and fibers slow digestion. So even though we like them, if we're having something that's too high in either of those, it's going to slow down how fast we're going to digest food. And when we're having like a moderate to hard intensity exercise, we're moving around a lot. Our body is focusing on sending out fuel and energy to our muscles and not to our stomach. So we have like stomach upset. I know I have trouble holding down food if I eat too close. So just be mindful of that. But so that's a meal, maybe that 2, 3, 4 hours out. And then the next time frame, depending on how hungry we are, what our goals are, and how hard or long we're working out, we might add something in an hour and a half out if we're feeling hungry-ish. And that should be primarily carbohydrates. We could have a little bit of protein there. I see a lot of people on the internet talking about that they think they need to have protein before a workout. Not really, unless it's going to be a long duration workout, then some protein might be helpful. But if you're going to do like an hour workout or less, I would just focus on carbs. And then if you're not like super hungry or whatever, then that 30 to 60 minute window, I would say regardless, like add something there. And what this looks like, simple carbohydrates. So things that are going to be easy digestible. So our body and our GI system doesn't have to do a lot of work to transfer that and make that into working energy for our muscles. So I'm talking like fruit snacks. And this is where I get a lot of grief because I'm recommending processed things sometimes, but they're super easy to throw in your bag, right? Like throwing in some fruit snacks into your bag is super easy. But if you pretzels, goldfish, like those can even work, especially for like saltier, heavier sweaters. Salty snacks that are carbohydrate are ideal. Dates, dried fruit, that sort of thing. Even a sports drink that has carbohydrates in it can be acceptable. So really any form of simple carbohydrate before a workout is the appropriate choice.
I love that. And I'm glad you talked about sweating because I was going to go into hydration next.
Yes.
So how do people know if they're dehydrated? And can you overhydrate?
Yes. So how can you tell you're dehydrated? Well, it's not a perfect system, but one thing you can do is monitor your urine color and just kind of pay attention to that. If you're taking any kind of medications or supplements, like that can affect the color of your urine. But I see a lot of people that are really hung up on this concept that we need to have like really clear urine. Like we need to drink so much water that our urine is clear. And I'm here to tell you that's wrong.
I thought that too. I don't even know if it was when I was a dietitian, I learned that I think maybe like my first year I learned it was wrong, but like, I always thought the same thing.
I had a doctor tell me that like a month ago, and I was just like, okay. So what clear urine tells me is that our body is not absorbing all the fluids that we're taking in. So what that could mean is that we're just drinking a lot of fluid, like we're trying to drink a gallon plus a day, which is kind of, I think, common for some people in the hardcore exercise realm. That is if we're drinking a lot of water. If we're drinking a lot, like chugging a lot in a short period of time, like we're trying to slam a bottle of water really fast, like that can cause clear urine, or just not getting enough salt or sodium, which is just, for the average human is, kind of controversial to say, because if you have like high blood pressure issues or anything like that, then we have to watch sodium content or, and that sort of thing. But if we are on the more active end, then that might be something that we do need more sodium. So it's a spectrum with anything. It's not like a black and white statement at all.
Right.
But monitoring your urine color. So I like to see like a light yellow, like a lemonade or straw color. That's actually the color we should be aiming for. Anything that is darker, so like an apple juice color or darker, is like concentrated urine. That is probably a sign that we're not quite hydrated and we need some more fluids. That could be water. That could be another sort of beverage. That could be something with electrolytes. It can be, a variety of different things. But that's one way to monitor. So like if I like to look at it the day leading up to anything. Like if I'm going to have a hard workout the next day, I want to check it the day before and make sure I'm hydrated the day before. Because if your urine is like dark yellow or that apple juice color, when you show up to the gym, like you're already going to have a dehydrated session, which just increases your risk of injury, your level of perceived fatigue. It just feels like you're working harder. It doesn't help your metabolism as much. And then overhydrating, beyond the clear urine, I see a lot of like amateur marathon runners that do this, that just like go balls to the wall on the water intake of plain water. And again, we just probably need some like electrolytes in there to help absorb that fluid.
So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I feel like it's been more trendy, and this is where I think it's good to have certain trends because like it means it's important. So I believe in like hydrating properly with minerals. So do you suggest any certain like electrolyte tablets or specific sports beverages that you recommend as like something that someone might consider trying out?
Yeah, I like a lot of different brands. I think some things have definitely gotten more marketing and fatty, but they're still decent products. Everybody's sweat rate, how much they're going to sweat and their sweat content. So how much sodium specifically is in their sweat is going to range. I don't know if can I say a brand on here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
So like Gatorade actually makes these sweat patches that you can stick on your forearm to kind of measure out your.
That's so funny you said that, because I was going to ask if like, I feel like in the professional athlete world, they probably have like all of these fancy ways of like testing way more than like we tell by like the color of our urine.
Yeah, they do, but I mean, it's not. I mean, it's only as good as what you're going to do with that information, right? So, like, if I'm for me, like, you know, with my basketball team, if I'm tracking a lot of stuff and I'm taking a lot of data and stuff, it's only as good as like the action we're going to take on that. So, if I know someone's like not actually going to change anything, then is it worth it going through this like super sciencey lab testing? Like for me, no, it's not worth me to waste my time or the athlete's time. But yeah, for the average human, you can get these Gatorade sweat patches, and they're interesting to play around with. They're hit or miss. Like I've had some fall off or not have an accurate reading, but all to say that different electrolyte products have different ranges of sodium in it. So you've got something like the right stuff on one end, which is probably like the most sodium rich, or Element, LMNT, which is the most sodium rich. And then something like Liquid IV, Drip Drop. Those are like kind of more popular, I feel, mainstream brands right now. Those work. There's also just basic salt tabs, or you can create your own sports drink at home, or you can add salt literally to your drink yourself, or add salt to food. So there's a range of ways to get it done. Yeah.
So I am curious, is there, I don't know this answer. Is there like a standard like amount of milligrams someone should be replenishing with? Like, you know, like, is that, I know what like your upper limit is like for someone with high blood pressure, but I never really thought about that with like an athlete, like, cause how much would be, then you could still do too much sodium, even if someone's sweating a lot, right?
You can still do too much sodium, but your body has a pretty good process of like, of you know, sweating and releasing fluids in different ways, and bringing down that sodium level in different ways. So your body does a good job of like of maintaining that balance and figuring that out. There might be like a set dosage based on, but it's you'd have to know your sweat rate, your concentration, right? In order to determine that. And that could be variable by the workout. That could be variable by like if you're training indoors or outdoors, summer, winter, humid, not humid, right? So it's like, I'm sure you could, in a very controlled lab setting, figure it all out. But for the average human, like, it's just kind of like throwing stuff at the
and
wall.
See, yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Cause I was thinking about, I don't like Liquid IV. To me, I literally taste this. It's like too salty. Like I taste it and to me, it tastes nasty, but yeah.
So there's one brand I saw. I was looking at my table to see if I had a packet. I think it's called Fluid. I just like saw them at a event recently, and you can't taste the salt in theirs.
Oh, okay.
Good. So that
might be worth a try. Yeah. No, but it's so funny. Everything's like really segueing perfectly, because the next thing I wanted to talk about was alcohol, and I'm going to share why I'm making this connection. So I was at like a bachelorette weekend, and everyone was like drinking these Liquid IV packets, because like, you know, after you like alcohol is very dehydrating, and so it's like kind of trendy to just like drink these. But I'm like thinking to myself, like, we're drinking a lot of alcohol. We're eating a lot of fried food. Like we had like a private chef come. I don't know how much salt they're putting in. I could literally taste the salt as I'm drinking. Like, we're sitting on our butts. I'm like, I just don't think this is a great idea. Like,
not feeling like you actually need the electrolytes because you're getting enough from the food you're eating.
Yeah, I was like, I think my food is suffice, and I don't think I need this right now. And I understand that I do need to replenish after drinking alcohol, but like, I feel like can you speak about how like food probably has enough, like depending on your activity level, or maybe not? I mean, I could be wrong.
I would say, a lot of food probably has enough depending on what you're eating. But a lot of people like do people that are super diety, like they're stripping a lot of the sodium and stuff out of this stuff.
Yeah.
So it depends on who we're talking to.
Exactly.
If we're talking to like the person who's like, you're eating fast food regularly, that's me. You might be getting enough. But also what I would counter is that if having those electrolytes in your water encourage you to drink more water than you would have otherwise on that trip,
that's true.
Then that benefit for me outweighs the some extra electrolytes. Plus
Yeah.
carbs. I mean, if you were drinking this as a separate time than you were eating the food too, then carbs that are in the packets too, like also help with hydration and getting the food where it needs to be. So yeah, I see your point completely. Me, like, you know, some people are just like, I like it because it tastes better. Then shoot, if that is the only way I'm getting you to drink, then drink. You know,
right. Awesome. Okay, so alcohol, how does that impact someone's performance?
So much.
And also, like, okay, so originally before we were recording, I was going to ask you about like your athletes and like how serious they take their nutrition. But like, I wonder, do they like party a lot too, where it's like before game day, or are they like pretty serious about the fact that like they won't do it before a game day and like they're not going to be like you know, getting like drunk the night before a game?
I will say it's a spectrum. We play 82 games in regular season, right? And like some of these trips are like super long. So some like times we're gone for 2 weeks. And then so let's say we're in Miami for a few days, or New York for a few days or something like that. Then like the athletes are probably going to go out. They're probably going to have like some of their significant others or their families or their friends like come meet them and hang out, because it's a long season. It's a really long season. And I mean, ideally, there's definitely those that are on top of it and they know what they need, but other ones, like, they've been doing this for so long, or they're new to it and they're kind of like getting to do things that they never got to do. Right. So it's a balance. Like, I just came home from Vegas. I was there for summer league with like a lot of the rookies. And I will tell you, I saw a few of them heading out on a regular basis.
Sure. Oh my God.
And so you just figure out, like, for me, like I think when I came into this, I thought, especially coming from the bodybuilding world where everybody was really controlled and disciplined, I thought that elite athletes were like even more that way. And I would say like your endurance population at the high level, they're very dialed in. But basketball, it's a spectrum. Like, some of them eat worse than I've ever seen any human eat before. And some of them are like, Jessica, what can I do? How can I get better? You know, and then most of them are somewhere in between, where they care, but they're also human. And we just find ways to like make it work as good as possible, or mitigate the risks, or figure out like knowing that you're going to do this, knowing like I had an athlete that like went on a trip. He needs to cut weight and he was going on a trip and he likes to drink. And so I was having conversations with him about hydration, electrolytes, like we just talked about, getting some vegetables in his meals and that sort of thing. So like controlling as much as we can any of the fallout. But yeah, alcohol, it really affects your performance. Up to 72 hours after drinking alcohol, it can still affect your performance.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Wow. It can affect sleep. It can affect your testosterone. It can affect recovery. It can affect hydration. You know, so many different. It can increase illness, injury risk. You know, and plus a lot of times when we drink, we also make different choices with food options as well. So there's the behavioral component, and then there's like the physiological component. But alcohol overall is a performance killer.
Wow. Yeah, I know. It's so sad. But yeah, no, I actually just recorded a podcast episode. If you guys didn't check that one out yet, kind of all about just changing your relationship with alcohol and like being honest, you know, because I never want someone to feel bad about making a choice, a food choice, a beverage choice, or anything like that. But it's just, I think, knowing the reality of if you kind of let it, if you don't, you know, have a handle on it, or like how easily it can go from like 1 drink to 2 drinks to 3 drinks to everyday drinks to weekend drinking, you know, it can easily really build if you're not mindful about it. And it does have, you know, impacts on your performance and then just overall health and quality of life too. So, awesome. Oh my God, this has been so valuable. I know that the listeners are going to love this. Anything we didn't talk about, or any kind of last minute like comments or things you think the listeners like need to know? Supplements.
We got to cover.
Oh yeah. Let's cover supplements. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's so many of them. What do you want to talk about them?
Well, let's just start well, first thing. So, I'm a food first person, but like supplements do fit in. Like you can meet most of your needs through your food. However, it is challenging and it doesn't always work, right? Like, especially if we're dieting, if we eat a lot of the same foods, if we have a lot going on in our life. And so we're not eating the most nutritious, not nutrient rich things. We don't like certain foods, right? There's so many different reasons why we might not be getting all of the vitamins and minerals specifically that we need, or we might need to supplement them. And then on the performance enhancements side, even just like something like protein powder or creatine, which are relatively safe, well-researched, regularly used, regularly recommended by me. There are some things like that I like to tell people to look out for. One, like ideally you actually need the thing that you're supplementing, and how you figure that out, working with a professional is one way, but also just like, I think working with a professional is probably the best way to really understand like where you are at versus what you need, and making sense of like recommendations and how they apply to you. Because any kind of recommendation is like for the general person and not individual and specific for you. Different people absorb things different ways. Different people eat, a plant-based diet versus includes animal proteins. So there's a spectrum of like why, of how we might need to use things. Anyways, third-party testing is a huge one. I'm super passionate about, not just for athletes, but for any human. I recommend making sure your products are third-party tested. I look for specific things for athletes to make sure that they don't contain banned substances, but you can also use these same like certifications to look for your own products, because you know that like athletes at the highest levels are okay to use them. That might be like a sign that it might be safe for you. Mm-hmm. Why this matters is like supplements aren't regulated or tested like food and drug is. And so people can literally make stuff in their garage and like stick it on the shelf at a vitamin store. And it could be filled with crap. It could be filled with nothing that the label says. You have things that are coming from other countries that have like literally like insects, eggs and legs, and right. So it's really important that we have the safety and the quality of our products tested, ensure what's on the label is actually in the product, ensure that it doesn't have any banned substances or harmful substances. A recent study found that over 28% of supplements on the market contain like banned substances like steroids or this diet. I forget the name of it. This like diet drug the labels don't say they contain these, but they do. So it's really important.
That's so crazy. And I can't even think about like if you're taking a medication, like potential like harmful interactions.
Exactly. Which is why supplements, it's such a huge industry. Everybody feels like they need them. They may need some, but I would just caution you of like using a supplement first approach, and then make sure your products are third party tested. I like NSF Certified for Sport and Informed Choice or Informed for Sport. Both have websites, both have apps. There's a couple other ones too, but USP Labs is another one. BGSC or something like that. That's another one.
Yeah.
Those are some big things with supplements, but yeah, there's so many out there. Like to cover them all would be take forever, but
yeah, no, I agree. It's so funny. I feel like before we started recording, I kind of told you, I said my audience is usually like, they're going to be like the avid workout junkies or the people are really struggling to just kind of start. Mm-hmm. But I think same thing with supplements. The people who listen to this, they either are people that are like, they're taking all the supplements. They don't care where it comes from. They're just going to, they're just taking them because they're hoping, something sticks and it's going to be the magic thing. But then the other side, it's like the idea of a supplement, like a protein shake, it's considered processed, quote unquote. And they would be like actually afraid to consume that, or they wouldn't feel like it's not a whole food per se. And so they're like, oh, I don't want to have that. Like I've had people kind of share that. So I think it's helpful to kind of hear you kind of share that it is safe when you know the source, and that it is completely, it's not necessary per se, but it will be helpful in helping you to reach your goals if it's from the right source and if it's something that you can trust. So I think that was really, really great to add. Amazing. Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it.
I'm so glad you reminded me, because I definitely wanted to touch on that. This has been so helpful. Where can people find you, connect with you, follow up with any other questions they might have?
Cool. So Instagram, TikTok is my big one. Instagram, I'm mostly accessible on. Jessica, the Sports RD for registered dietitian. And then my website, same thing, jessicathesportsrd.com.
Awesome. Oh my God. Well, it's been so great, guys. Make sure you give her a follow. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, share it on your story, tag me at tips_with_Tony. That's Tony with an I. And then also tag Jessica as well. I'll put all her links in the show notes. You can go give her a follow. If you're not already subscribed to the Tips with Tony podcast, definitely hit that subscribe button. A new episode comes out every Tuesday and Thursday. And when you're subscribed, you don't miss a beat. All right, guys, that's it from us today. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.